Hello children, this video is in continuity with the previous video of the chapter Plant Breeding to Enhance Food Production. The various objectives we are going to cover in this video are hybrid vigor, that is heterosis, and inbreeding depression, single cell protein, sources and significance of single cell protein, plant tissue culture and its basic methodology, types of plant tissue culture, conditions necessary for successful plant tissue culture, regeneration of plantlets from cultured cells, shoot and root regeneration, hardening and establishment in the field, and last, application of tissue culture. So, talking about hybrid vigor and inbreeding depression. When two unrelated individuals, varieties, or lines having desired genes are crossed, it results in a F1 hybrid that has useful characters of both the parents, that is both male as well as female parent. The F1 hybrid is superior to both the parents. The superiority of the hybrid over either parent in one or more traits is called hybrid vigor or heterosis. Hybrid vigor can also be defined as the increase in size or vigor of a hybrid over its parents. As the name suggests, heteros word comes for different, osis word comes for condition. So it is also used to denote increase in size and vigor after crossing. So in this cross, it is clearly depicted when it is cross 1. Inbreed A and inbreed B, when they are crossed, it results in the formation of F1 hybrid, which is not showing heterosis. While in cross 2, inbreed A and inbreed B, when they cross, they form F1 hybrid that shows increase in size and vigor, that is, it is showing heterosis. Talking about hybrid. Hybrid is heterozygous. Heterozygous means a pair of gene controlling a character are dissimilar, while inbreeding leads to homozygosity. Homo means same. So when a pair of gene controlling a character are similar. Heterosis is lost by breeding. Thus, to maintain optimum heterosis, seeds must be produced every year by crossing the pure parental lines. Vegetatively producing crop plants are best suited for maintaining hybrid vigor because once a desired hybrid has been produced, it can be multiplied by vegetative reproduction without undergoing any change. So, various effects of hybrid vigor or heterosis. Hybrid vigor has been exploited in commercial crops like maize, rice, sugar beet, tomato, cabbage, etc. F1 hybrids of maize have shown 25% higher yields than the inbred lines. The hybrid vigor in crops may be expressed in three ways, that is quantitative effect, biological effect and physiological effect. So what is quantitative? That is an increase in size or number of fruits and seeds. Biological effects means increased biological efficiency of an organism such as capacity of reproduction and ability of survival. And physiological effect means on the body function such as resistance to various diseases and early maturation of the plant. What is inbreeding depression? Inbreeding involves selective reproduction of two closely related individuals of the same species. Self-pollination or selfing of plants, that is crossbreeding of the individuals obtained in F1 generation, is an extreme form of inbreeding. Inbreeding promotes homozygosity. Just now we have discussed homo means same. So a pair of genes controlling a character are similar. It is often used to propagate particular characteristic and is used to produce pedigree dogs and cats but has its own disadvantages. Prolonged inbreeding leads to reduction in fertility. Inbreeding depression may be defined as the loss in vigor associated with inbreeding. Dominant alleles means the alleles which are able to express themselves in heterozygous condition of all the genes have beneficial effects. Some, if not all, recessive alleles have harmful effects. Cross-pollinated species are heterozygous, means that they have recessive alleles in heterozygous state. Due to the presence of dominant alleles, the harmful effects of recessive alleles are not expressed, that is, they remain masked. Now, when such a population is subjected to inbreeding, it leads to homozygosity of some alleles. Many recessive alleles become homozygous. Inbreeding increases the number of homozygous genotypes. These recessive alleles will now express their harmful effects, which is called as inbreeding depression. So the word allele means a pair of gene controlling a character that occupies the same position on homologous chromosomes. Now, what is single cell protein? The conventional agricultural practices are not able to meet the demand of food at the rate at which human population is growing. It means the population is growing in geometric progression. It is multiplying, while the resources which are required, they are just adding up. That is in arithmetic progression. The change of diet from grains to meat diet puts extra demand for cereals, as it takes 3 to 10 kilogram of grain to produce 1 kilogram of wheat. At present, more than 25% of the human population suffers from hunger or malnutrition. Malnutrition means when they are having one or the more essential nutrients are deficient in the diet. Hence, there is need to look for alternative sources of food, and that alternative source is single cell protein. Single cell protein for human and animal nutrition is one such alternate source of protein. Sources of single cell protein. Microorganisms are a source of proteins. Number of microorganisms like yeast has been used in the preparation of fermented food like cheese, idli, curd, etc. Some microorganisms have been directly used as food, for example, spirulina. Now, the various substrates for SCP, that is single cell protein production, it includes the biomass. Substrate is the biomass on which the microorganisms grow. The choice of substrate depends upon its cost, whether it is cost effective or not, ease of availability, oxygen requirement during fermentation, heat produced and the level of fermenter cooling required, downstream processing cost. So, carbon substrate, it includes waste products like whey, molasses, bagasse, agriculture sources like lignin, cellulose, hemicellulose, high energy sources like methanol, ethanol, and gas oil, and along with it, carbon dioxide. Recently, the efforts have been made to use a variety of microorganisms for human consumption or as feed for animals. Cells from a variety of microorganisms like bacteria, yeast, and algae, treated in various ways and used as food or feed, are called single cell proteins. Single cell protein refers to the microbial biomass that we have discussed already, rich in high quality protein. SCP can be produced from algae, filamentous fungi, yeast, and bacteria. The substrates used for SCP production range from carbon dioxide to industrial effluents like whey to low cost organic materials like sawdust and paddy straw. This we have already seen in this when I was talking about carbon substrate. So here, microbes like spirulina can be grown easily on materials like wastewater from potato processing plants containing starch, straw, molasses, animal manure, and even sewage to serve as food rich in proteins. Commercial production of SCP is mostly based on yeast and some fungi like Fusarium graminearum. What is the significance of SCP? SCP is rich in quality protein and it is poor in fats, which is of course desirable by humans. SCP provides a valuable protein rich supplement in human diet. Some can be used as animal feed also. Their use should help to bridge the gap between the requirement and supply of proteins. Use of SCP would also reduce the pressure on agriculture for the supply of required proteins. In addition, SCP production based on industrial effluents, means that is the liquid waste, should help in reducing environmental pollution also. Now talking about plant tissue culture. So it refers to the maintenance and growth of plant cells tissues, and organs outside an intact plant in a suitable culture medium, that is, in a container. So, what is the basic methodology which is required for plant tissue culture? So, here in this picture, it is quite clear. First of all, a small piece of tissue, generally from the shoot tip, as it is composed of undifferentiated and rapidly dividing cells, it is taken. It is called explant. Now, it is grown in a nutrient medium containing necessary nutrients like minerals, vitamins, and hormones under sterile conditions. Sterile conditions means the aseptic condition, that is, it is free from microbes. Now, the cells grow into an unorganized mass of cells called callus. So, here we get an important definition of callus, that is, an unorganized mass of cells. Unorganized means it is still not differentiated. Now, small parts of callus are transferred to another medium containing different combination of plant hormones to induce growth and differentiation. Cells differentiate into roots and shoots, and the plantlets are formed. These plantlets are transferred to soil or pots and grown to maturity. So, talking about the types of plant tissue culture. So, it depends upon two things. One, the type of in vitro growth, and second one is the explant used for culture initiation. So, depending upon in vitro growth, they are classified into two types, that is callus culture, suspension culture. Depending upon the explant used, they are categorized into following. First is meristem culture, second is embryo culture, third is anther or pollen culture, and last is protoplast culture. So, before proceeding, we must know what is explant. So, explant is the plant part that is excised or removed from its original location and is used for initiating a tissue culture. Even explant is referred to as the cell or tissue which is taken from a particular body and then placed in a culture medium for growth. So, here in this picture, it is quite clear. We are talking about tissue culture. Depending on in vitro growth, explant cultured on agar medium and explant cultured in nutrient medium. So callus is formed. Here we are saying suspension of cells called suspension culture is formed when they are undergoing regeneration. So here it is resulting in the formation of shoot, and here it results in the formation of somatic embryo. After rooting, here we say the embryo germinates and forms plantlets. Here rooting occurs and the plantlet is formed, and then it is subjected to hardening. Hardening means it is exposed to variable environmental conditions, so it can be acclimatized, and later it is established in the field. Another thing here, it is tissue culture depending on type of explant used. So just now we said it is meristem culture, it could be embryo culture, it could be anther culture or protoplast culture. So from this picture it is quite clear we are talking about the types of explant used. So what are the conditions necessary for successful plant tissue culture? So these include, first one is sterile conditions. Sterile means aseptic. It is free from microbes. The explants are treated with specific antimicrobial chemicals, and this is called surface sterilization. Very important term, that is surface sterilization. Now, the vessels, media, and instruments are treated with steam, dry heat, or alcohol to make them free from microbes, and this is called sterilization. It comes under the category of equipments, where the equipments are sterilized, that is made free from germs. Now, after surface sterilization of explants, their transfer to culture media should be done again under aseptic condition, that is, it should be free from microbes. Now, talking about the culture medium, it should provide the nutrients required for the desired growth and development of explants. The standard media used for most culture contain inorganic salts, certain vitamins, then sucrose, which is a source of energy, amino acids, specific desired growth regulators called hormones. The combination of growth regulator or plant hormones may differ depending on the kinds of culture. Some commonly used plant hormones are auxins like 2,4-D, that is 2,4-dichlorophenoxyacetic acid, then cytokinins like BAP, that is benzyl aminopurine. Growth regulators or plant hormones are required for cell division and organ regeneration in tissue cultures. Last, we need to have appropriate temperature. The tissue cultures are usually kept in a culture room at about 24 degrees Celsius with some illumination. After some time, following three things happen in all plant tissue cultures. First, increase in the cell or tissue dry matter, that is biomass increases. Decrease in the level of nutrients in the medium, that is of course it is going to be utilized by the developing plant. Then decline in the volume of the medium due to evaporation. So here we are going to discuss another important term, that is subculturing. Subculturing may be defined as a process in which only a part of the culture from a vessel is transferred into a new culture vessel and grown. Now, why it is done? Because if the tissue cultures are kept in the same culture vessel, the cells will die in due course of time. Hence, to keep the tissue culture growing, some of the cells are regularly transferred into new culture vessel containing fresh medium. Why it happens? Because there will be overcrowding. So in order to avoid this, the medium, the culture, the cells, they are basically transferred to the new vessels. So here in this is a culture tube in which callus is formed. Then it is having agar medium is there. These callus pieces are then transferred to different test tubes. This is called subculture, which is after a period of 4 to 6 weeks. Now, regeneration of plantlets from cultured cells. So very important term, it is totipotency. So the ability of plant cells to give rise to complete plants is called totipotency. Plantlets can be obtained from cultured cells by two different routes, that is by shoot or by the regeneration of somatic embryos. This we have seen in the previous slide. Regeneration refers to the development of an organized structure like root, shoot, somatic embryos from cultured cells. Now talking about shoot and root regeneration. The callus cells are transferred to a growth medium containing specific hormones, could be auxins or cytokinins, to promote shoot and root regeneration. Shoot generation is promoted by cytokinins like BAP, that is benzyl aminopurine. Root generation is promoted by auxins like NAA, that is naphthalene acetic acid. So in this, usually the balance of cytokinin and auxin is maintained, because if there will be excess of cytokinin, it will promote root generation, and balance of auxin and cytokinin promotes root shoot generation. Callus cultures are first kept on BAP, then containing afterwards, after some time, shoots regenerate from callus cells. When shoots are 2 to 3 centimeter long, they are cut and transferred to an auxin containing medium. Now roots regenerate from the lower ends of these shoots to form complete plantlets. Now the last we have to discuss about hardening and establishment in the field. The plant was removed from the culture medium and then are grown to maturity in soil or established in the field. The plantlets taken from culture medium are quite delicate and sensitive. Before establishing them into the field, specific procedures are followed. These are called hardening. Hardening can be defined as a procedures that make plantlets capable of tolerating the relatively harsher environmental conditions outside the culture vessels. During hardening, the plantlets are kept under reduced light and high humidity, means high moisture content, for a suitable period of time. This hardens them and makes them suitable to be grown in the field, means they become adapted and later they can be released into fields. Now here it is clearly seen what happens in the tissue culture lab, how come these plantlets are grown. Later, they are sent to greenhouses where they are allowed to acclimatize. Once they are able to adapt to the variable environmental conditions like high heat conditions, high light conditions, or even during high humidity, they are released in the fields as a variety. So what are the applications of tissue culture? It is used for propagation of large number of plants in a very short duration, and this method of producing thousands of plants through tissue culture is called micropropagation. Then is rapid soma-clonal propagation. Each one of these plants formed is genetically identical to the original plant from which it has grown. Hence, these are called soma clones. Clones means identical to the parent body. So, soma clone is a population of genetically identical cells or organisms. Soma-clonal variation. Plant tissue cultures also have a side effect that can be used as a useful change under certain conditions. They can be problematic if the desired goal is to be produce plant clones, but they can be very useful to generate novel plants with traits not present in the original plant. Last, about transgenic plants. A gene that is transferred or introduced into a cell or an organism by genetic engineering is called transgene, and the organism which is produced by this phenomena is called transgenic organism. Using plant tissue culture, genetic manipulation can be done at the level of single cells in cultures. A desired gene can be introduced into a cell, and then the whole plant, that is transgenic plant, can be produced bearing the introduced gene. The transgenic plants thus produce have valuable inheritable traits. In this picture, we can see the various application of plant tissue culture for clonal propagation, large-scale multiplication, biomass energy, breaking dormancy, synthetic seeds are produced, it is inducing early flowering, genetic transformation, and so on. So thank you so much.